Let's head into our top story this morning. In a call with his campaign staff, US President Donald Trump lashed out at the government's top infectious disease expert, that is Dr Anthony Fauci, referring to Fauci and other health officials as idiots. Trump declared the country ready to move on from the pandemic, even as cases are again spiking, and medical experts warn that the worst may be yet to come. Listen in.
People are tired of hearing Fauci and all these idiots, these people that have gotten it wrong. Fauci's a nice guy. He's been here for 500 years. He called every one of them wrong. And he's like this wonderful guy, a wonderful sage telling us out. He said, do not wear face masks. That's a number of months ago. He said, do not close it up to China. I have a list of 15 things, this guy. And yet we keep him. Every time he goes on television, there's always a bomb. But there's a bigger bomb if you fire him. But Fauci's a disaster. I mean, this guy's, if I listen to him, we have 500,000 deaths.
Now, for more insights into the news developments in the United States, we are now being joined by Jagriti Dave live from Washington, D.C. Welcome, Jagriti, and thanks for joining us on this broadcast. Now, let's start by discussing the president's latest comments about Dr. Anthony Fauci. Why is the U.S. president attacking the country's top infectious diseases experts just a few weeks before the election?
Well, look, as you mentioned, cases are looking like they are on the rise across most states across the country. And the pandemic has been front and centre in a lot of the debates, in a lot of the reporting on the media coverage, and in a lot of voters' minds. And one thing is that the president is often in his campaigns, and when he's out campaigning, talking about his own record, he's promoting his own handling and his administration's handling of the pandemic. And of course, that is often at odds with health experts. So this is one way that he is, amplifying his criticism of health experts, and specifically Dr. Fauci. It could be that he'd seen the interview that Dr. Fauci had done over the weekend, where Dr. Fauci had said he wasn't surprised that the president had gotten coronavirus based on recent events where he'd held gatherings where people weren't wearing masks or socially distancing. Some people are looking to the event at the Rose Garden of the White House, where the president announced his nominee for the Supreme Court as an example of this. It could also be that Anthony Fauci spoke out publicly to CNN against the use of a clip of him in a Trump campaign ad, where he said that the words that he'd used were not used with his permission and were taken out of context. The president and Dr. Fauci often are at odds, and sometimes those disagreements break through publicly, as they have done clearly over the last couple of days.
Right. Now, most would say that Fauci has emerged as a credible voice during this pandemic. So is the Trump administration trying to discredit him by calling him a disaster and other health officials idiots?
Well, President Trump has often tried to discredit health officials who disagreed with his approach. He's often said of Dr. Fauci that he said that Americans wouldn't have to worry about the pandemic, and this was generally the consensus at the time, early on in the pandemic, when health experts were not sure about the severity of the pandemic. From the information they had in the early days, like Dr. Fauci, many health experts were advising most Americans that they didn't need to wear face masks, and that the pandemic wasn't going to affect the general population. But of course, that proved to be incorrect, and that proved that the guidance changed based on the advice. But for President Trump, really, all of this is front and centre is for him to try to talk about his own performance and his own handling of the pandemic, where he is at odds with health experts who say now that people should be wearing masks when they cannot socially distance, that mask wearing in general is a good way to combat the coronavirus. President Trump has rarely been seen wearing masks, and of course he's coming back off the back of his own COVID-19 diagnosis.
Absolutely right. Thank you, Jagriti, for these inputs. We'd like you to stay on with us, and we'd also like to get your insights on some polling trends as we gear up for the US election.